Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome again to the Stoner Report. I'm Marius Stoner, Associate Editor of Cannabis Culture Magazine. I'm here at 307 West Hastings, the BCMP Vapor Lounge and Cannabis Culture Headquarters Bookstore. So come check us out. Mark Emery is still in Louisiana. We have yet to hear exactly when he's going to come back, but we might have word soon. But that's all I can say at the moment. So, thanks for joining in. I'm glad to see you all. It's kind of nice today in Vancouver. A few clouds overhead, so it's not terribly warm, but it's still a beautiful summer day, and we're all enjoying it while we can. So, if you're in Vancouver, come down and see us at the Vapor Lounge and enjoy your day. So, I'll just get on with the news then. Oops, 1 second. Trudeau and Emery didn't meet at the Vancouver barbecue, but they still managed to talk about each other. The federal Liberal leader wouldn't comment on the potential Vancouver East candidate, or at least not directly. A sunny afternoon in the park almost brought pro-Liberal pot activist Jodie Emery and pro-pot Liberal leader Justin Trudeau together for the first time. Almost. Trudeau attended the BC Day Liberal barbecue in Vancouver's Douglas Park on Monday with federal Liberal candidates and supporters, where Emery made an appearance. She told the province she was impressed by Trudeau's speech to attendees, though she didn't get the chance to meet him. Emery is planning to run in the 2015 for the Liberal Party of Canada and the Vancouver East riding, which has been held by NDP MP Livy Davis since 1997. To do this, Emery will need to drum up support from Trudeau, who would get the final word on her eligibility. I understand the leader has to sign off on all candidates if they win the nomination race, she said. If I do that, I imagine he would probably allow me to join the team. But, of course, there's no doubt some nerves about it. But I hope to demonstrate in the coming months that we can actually bring some real value to the party. That's my plan. Trudeau was unclear about where he stands on Emery's political ambitions. After speaking after the event about his policies on marijuana control and regulation, Trudeau skirted questions about Emery's potential as a Liberal. And that's because it's really not up to him yet, not until she wins the nomination. So, the New York Times runs a full-paid pro-marijuana ad in its Sunday edition. The ad follows launch of a 6-part series by the paper's editorial board advocating repeal of the federal ban. The New York Times featured a full-page ad in support of marijuana in its Sunday edition. The ad follows a series of editorials in the paper issuing calls to repeal the federal ban on medical and recreational use of marijuana, arguing it inflicted great harm on society just to prohibit a substance far less dangerous than alcohol. Sunday's ad promoting the website leafly.com, which helps users locate medical marijuana dispensaries and choose strains, shows a woman jogging past a brownstone near a professionally dressed man with a paper under his arm. Ian chose an indica cannabis strain to relieve his MS symptoms, the ad said. While fighting cancer, Molly preferred a sativa cannabis. Chief Executive of the Seattle-based Privateer Holdings, Brendan Kennedy, which placed the ad, said the decision to depict working people was intentional. This product and this industry are still depicted as subculture or counterculture. This is just not the reality. New York legalized medical marijuana last month, and in 2012, Washington and Colorado became the first 2 states to legalize marijuana for recreational use. An April poll by Pew Research showed that the majority of Americans at least 54%, support marijuana legalization, marking a significant change in public opinion since 1969, when Pew first asked the question, and only 12% favored legalization. These are the first edible pot products sold in Washington. When the first sales of legal recreational marijuana took place in Washington state this July, there were no edible products in sight. Due to a stringent oversight process put in the place by the Washington State Liquor Control Board, no kitchens had been approved for churning out legal pot brownies or THC-infused oils or other green goodies. That changed at 10:30 p.m. on Wednesday night when Al Olson, the marijuana editor of CNBC.com, purchased the first approved edibles, spending about $200 on products, $200, like Green Chief Crazy Carnival Nuts, 420 Party Mix, and Twisted Trail Mix, as well as one vaporizer pen and vape pen battery. The historic sale took place in Bellingham, Washington, at a store called Top Shelf Cannabis, which was also the first to market with marijuana leaf sales. The board, put in charge of implementing the legal marijuana market, had the benefit of watching Colorado start up its marijuana market first. The state experienced issues with children accidentally ingesting marijuana edibles and then proposed more stringent rules about label packaging at the end of July. If approved, rules like putting certain edibles in child-resistant packaging will go into effect on November 1st. Forget Colorado. New survey shows Rhode Islanders use the most marijuana. This may shock you, but Colorado and Washington residents don't use the most weed, if you're measuring by the percent of state residents who regularly use marijuana. Rhode Islanders do. 13%, or 1 in 8, of those over the age 12 in the Ocean State said they have used marijuana in the past month, according to state-level statistics from the latest national survey on drug use and health. This is a big jump from the national average, which is about 7%. Kansas reported the lowest levels of regular marijuana users at 4.06% overall. Though Rhode Island came in as a dark horse, the rest of the statistics are less surprising. According to the Washington Post, Western states generally have the highest rate of weed usage at 9%, followed by the Northeast. The South has the lowest overall rate at 5.83%. Medical marijuana user sues company that fired her. A woman in New Mexico is suing a company she says fired her for failing a drug test, even though she had a state-issued medical marijuana card. The ex-employee, Donna Smith, says Presbyterian Health Services' decision to terminate her violates the New Mexico Human Rights Act, which prohibits discrimination against people with serious medical conditions. Smith's attorney, Jason Flores Williams, argues it's absolute hypocrisy to punish employees for outside work use of doctor-advised marijuana, but not alcohol, Adderall, or antidepressants. Smith, a physician's assistant, was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder in 1997 after serving in the military. Presbyterian says it did nothing wrong and was just following federal guidelines on protecting its other employees' rights. Presbyterian is committed to patient safety, and we believe that a drug-free workplace is a key component, PHS Senior Vice President Joanne Sufis said in an emailed statement. The use of medical marijuana is not recognized by federal law, and Presbyterian has a mandate under federal law to provide a drug-free workplace. And an update, in an email, Presbyterian's Communication Director Kristen Krebs clarified that Smith was hired through an outside staffing agency. Upon learning of the positive test for marijuana, Presbyterian informed the staffing agency that we did not wish to continue her assignment at Presbyterian, Krebs writes. Presbyterian did not ask for Mrs. Smith's outside staffing agency to terminate its employment of her. Smith's is the latest in a series of suits involving workers who say they were fired for using medical marijuana in the 20 states that allow it. Those conflicts could presage similar controversies in states that legalize recreational marijuana. While certain states, like Arizona, offer specific protection against getting punished at work for using medical marijuana at home, most don't. In a pending Colorado Supreme Court case, justices will have to decide whether the state's ban on firing people for lawful activity outside of work, a ban only a few states have, applies to medical marijuana, which remains illegal under federal law. The nation's capital might legalize marijuana in November. A pot legalization initiative in D.C. gathered twice the number of required signatures. Despite Congress's wishes, the residents of the nation's capital already decriminalized marijuana, treating small amounts of possession similar to a parking violation with a fine. Now the district may be about to follow Colorado and Washington state and legalize it altogether. More than 57,000 D.C. voters, organized by the lobby group D.C. Cannabis, signed a petition to get a pot legalization initiative, Initiative 71, onto the upcoming ballot. There's more than double the number of signatures required, so today the D.C. Board of Elections ruled that the initiative is valid and will appear on the November ballot. It has a good chance of passing, since polls show more than 60% of D.C. voters in favor of legalization. As with alcohol, the new law would allow adults 21 and over to use marijuana. It would also allow those adults to possess up to 2 ounces of marijuana and cultivate a maximum of 6 marijuana plants, though only 3 of those plants can be fully mature. Unlike alcohol, and unlike pot in Washington and Colorado, the current initiative fails to address how D.C. would tax and regulate the newly legal substance. So, the D.C. Council is considering a second bill that would tax and regulate the sale of marijuana. The drug war is filling prisons with women. U.S. prisons are still mostly occupied by men, but women are getting thrown behind bars at a much faster rate these days, largely because of the war on drugs. In more than 40 states, the incarceration rate for females is growing faster than that of males, according to federal statistics compiled by Huffington Post. The change in incarceration rates for women in Idaho, North Dakota, and West Virginia has eclipsed 400%, based on changes that took place from 1992 to 2012. The steady increase in female incarceration can be attributed in large part to drug-related convictions. In the federal prison system, 57% of female inmates have a drug offense as their most serious offense, while the rate for male prisoners is 47%. Among state inmates, the percentage of women with a drug conviction is 25%, but only 16% for men. Ohio officials say much of the increase they've seen in female inmates has been due to a rise in opioid use, with women also often used as drug mules. Alright, it's almost time for 2:20. I'm just going to pause the news a little ahead of schedule so I can roll a joint. I hadn't had a chance to do that yet today. This will be my first joint of the day even. Yes, watch me turn into a crazed lunatic in about 5 minutes' time. Just kidding. I'm already a crazed lunatic. So I hope things are going well for everybody there. Let's have a look at chat today. Oh, here it is. Oh, my phone's on silent, so we can't hear the alarm. But happy 2:20 to everyone, and a happy 4:20 to people who are in that time zone. Blow some over our direction. So I'll just quickly roll this joint and try not to be too boring while I'm doing it. I'll just have a look and see what chat has to say. Hi chat, hi Wave, hi Aegis. Don't forget to tune in for Jeremiah's show later on today. Yeah, it's going to be extra special today. Can't say exactly why, but that's what I was told. So yeah, 4 o'clock, Jeremiah's show. Don't forget to watch tomorrow for Redbeard's glass blowing show. Very popular one. There's also Al the Alchemist with class in session on Tuesdays at 11. And on Wednesday at 4, of course, there's Mr. Marijuana Man with From Under the Influence. And Thursday is when Jodie tapes her show. And show usually comes out the next day or the weekend. So she did a show yesterday. There'll be one coming out soon. And don't forget also check out all the Toronto content from Vapor Central. There, that was a good time filler, they call it in the real media. Just need a filter here. Yeah, and I should actually show this to you because it's really awesome weed. It's Raspberry Kush. And like Marijuana Man and I decided the other day is you come for the Kush, you stay for the raspberry because it smells so super sweet. There we go. Oh, higher. Yeah. Beautiful Raspberry Kush. And tasty as anything. So thanks so much for joining us, and keeping with the spirit of trying to legalize marijuana. It's not just us here, but all of you too that make a difference. So thanks for hanging in there. All right, mission accomplished. Yay. Nice stuff. All right, let's see what else we got. Okay. To fix the child refugee crisis, end the war on drugs. Congress closed for August recess this weekend without passing legislation to address the child refugee crisis on the Mexican border. Nearly 60,000 unaccompanied children, most from El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras, have entered the U.S. across the border in the last 9 months, fleeing spiraling violence in their home countries, murder, rape, and attacks carried out by rival drug gangs, and attacks by police on suspected gang members. The refugee crisis is now our problem, which is appropriate. The drug-linked violence that the children are fleeing is in large part our fault. That would be the U.S. Anti-drug policies in the U.S. and Europe have not succeeded in curbing drug use or in raising drug prices, but they have considerably increased crime and violence worldwide. It is time to shift the efforts to focus on helping drug users at home rather than battling drug makers and traffickers abroad. A little considered consequence of criminalization is displacement. When a state or country makes an activity illegal, the new criminals find new haven. Bordellos relocate to Nevada. Puritans flee to America. Polluting industries settle in China. This kind of displacement suggests that others can bear the costs of an individual or community's anti-crime measures. For example, if the interest of preventing burglaries, home insurers require all their policyholders to use alarms or security cameras, burglars would shift their efforts to those without enhanced security measures. In this example, the uninsured, a group that is more vulnerable to begin with. This is what has happened with drug production, which has concentrated in countries least able to control crime. Here's a domestic example. In 2004, Oklahoma created the first state law mandating that drug stores place pseudoephedrine behind the pharmacy counter, limiting individual sales and registering the photo ID of purchasers. These regulations severely disrupted the supply of a vital ingredient in methamphetamine. And for Oklahoma, it was an effective intervention. The number of meth labs confiscated in the state dropped 71% in 3 months. But in neighboring Texas and Kansas, where pseudoephedrine remained more easily available, police officers complained of a dramatic increase in meth production. In 2008, the U.S. restricted pseudoephedrine sales nationally, so production has moved abroad, first to Mexico, and when the country introduced similar laws, further south to Central America and Africa. Trade routes can also be displaced. Around 2006, when Mexico declared war on its own drug cartels, violence ticked up in El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras. One result, the homicide rate in Honduras is now the highest in the world. The number of murders has more than doubled since 2006, and the rate is now 19 times that in the U.S. Why the first country to legalize marijuana might give up. The goal of the law is to remove a huge source of revenue from violent drug gangs, which the government blames for a recent rise in crime. Uruguay's homicide rates increased by 21%, and violent robbery rates spiked by 250% over the past 13 years, according to the Associated Press. Drug policy experts always questioned whether Uruguay's plan would actually cripple criminal organizations. Although it's likely gangs wouldn't be able to compete with the prices in Uruguay's tightly regulated but cheaper marijuana market, the criminal groups could fall back on trafficking harder drugs and other illicit activities such as gun selling and extortion to make up for lost profits. Still, there was little dispute that criminal organizations would at least be weakened by the loss of marijuana revenue. John Walsh, leading drug policy expert at the Washington Office on Latin America, argued, even if it doesn't eradicate the illegal market, but it shrinks the market significantly, that's in and of itself an important outcome. Now, the legalization scheme isn't popular and could collapse under political opposition. The most recent survey from polling firm Cifra found only 7% of Uruguayans approved of the marijuana legalization law and 64% oppose it. And finally for this week, are psychedelics the next medical marijuana? After a long hiatus, researchers are again studying psychedelic substances like LSD to see if they fill a medical need. In March 2014, for the first time in over 40 years, a study of the therapeutic benefits of lysergic acid diethylamide, more commonly known as LSD, was published in a peer-reviewed medical journal. It showed that LSD-assisted psychotherapy significantly reduced anxiety in individuals with life-threatening diseases, including Parkinson's disease and breast cancer. The study is part of a recent wave of clinical research on psychedelic substances like LSD and psilocybin, the psychoactive component of magic mushrooms. Although they are illegal for the general public, researchers at some of our most reputable academic centers are securing government permission to study them as a powerful new drug therapy for a host of illnesses for which our current pharmacopoeia does not always work, including post-traumatic stress disorder, cluster headaches, and alcoholism. It is worth revisiting how they were introduced to the general American populace and how they became classified as illegal Schedule I drugs, which are considered unusually risky and lacking in medical benefits. Why they were outlawed, and our long-held attitudes about them, have more to do with the culture wars of the 1960s and 70s than their medical harmfulness. And that was the news for this week. Thanks again for joining me. Glad you could be here. Don't forget to tune in at 4 for Jeremiah's show. And stay tuned later in the week for all the other shows that I mentioned. We're looking forward to Mark coming back home soon sometime. Right now I don't have any information for you about that. But I think we might be hearing something soon. Alright, don't forget, marijuana is the most advanced plant on the planet. We're going to use it to save the world and save ourselves. Thanks for joining me. I'm Marius Stoner for Cannabis Culture Magazine. Until next week, take care.